So today's session is about headless CMS and Strapi in particular. The content of this session is as flashed. We will be discussing headless CMS, then we would be discussing Strapi and the features that Strapi offers. At the end, I will also show you how the dashboard looks and how you can change different things around, and we'll come to that in the end. Okay, let's just start. So let's just start by headless CMS. Headless CMS is basically a backend only content management system. The main focus of a headless CMS is that you keep your presentation layer and your content layer separate. What do I mean by this? By this, I mean is that you have your content at one place and then you have your front end at one place. It's a decoupled architecture. These both things are separate from each other. You guys might have heard about traditional CMSs like WordPress, where everything is tightly coupled together and you can change things around. You can change the styling of everything using that traditional CMS. But when we are talking about headless CMS, it's not the case. Things are different over here. So you have presentation layer and then you have CMS, and you are managing all your styling and how the look and feel would be, what other features would be involved. That goes in the presentation layer, and how you would be specifically managing your content, who will be actually adding and updating that content, that is separate. Headless CMSs are API driven. This means that you can retrieve your data by using some APIs. It gives you flexibility because your content is separate and you have the flexibility to maneuver that how you want it to be. And then it gives you scalability options because it's a decoupled architecture. It's easier to use. It has greater performance. And then it has multiple channel delivery. It means that you can share your content from one place to different applications as well. For example, I have a website, I have a mobile app, and I want to use the same content, but on different pages, I can even do that. Let's move forward to some advantages. As I explained, it gives you a lot of flexibility. Because it's API driven, you can actually integrate it with any web technology that you are using. It's faster because it's decoupled and the performance is better. The scalability, you can easily manage your traffic. It's omni-channel. You can publish content to multiple channels at the same time. And then there is a reduced attack surface of the content management system. It's not directly exposed. We will come to that later when we are discussing Strapi. Some use cases are the typical website use cases, that you have any e-commerce platform where you want to upload different products. You can use this. You can have different content if you're building a mobile application or even digital marketing platform. And even if you have a website where you have different articles and blogs, you can use a headless CMS in the same way as a traditional CMS to manage the content over there as well. Some very popular headless CMS options include Contentful. It is feature-rich. It has rich text editing, content modeling, and multi-language support. The Contentful is basically used with large-scale enterprises. Then we have Strapi. The major feature of Strapi is that it's open source, it's customizable, and you can even self-host it. The use cases is where developers need more flexibility and control. And then we have Prismic as well. So whenever you are using any technology, there are a few technical considerations as well. So as headless CMSs are API driven, you are fetching that content with API. So there can be a limit on the API rates, that how many API calls you can actually make. And that is according to the plan you're using. If you're using a paid version of that CMS, or if you're using the free version, so it varies. Then you have content modeling, because when we talk about content management systems, the main focus is basically content. So they give you flexibility to that, how you want to model your content and how you want to use that content in your future projects as well. Then there's version control, because your content is changing, the versions are changing, so you would have to manage those versions as well. And then whenever we are developing something, we do come across third-party integrations and how smooth those integrations are. With everything comes a few challenges and considerations. So there is a learning curve because you are, getting used to a new workflow, and it's different from what you were using before. Then there is one more thing, that is that initial setup. In traditional CMS, you set one thing up and your both instances are up. But when you are using headless CMS, you have to set up a CMS separately and then your front end code separately. Then comes cost, because CMS options are paid and they do have a lot of features. So it can get expensive. But then again, you do have an option. If your requirements are like that, you don't need those high-end features, you can always use the free versions. So this is a diagram that shows different architectures. The first one shows monolithic architecture. You can see that everything is tightly coupled together. Then we have the decoupled architecture. It has actually decoupled the front-end code and the back-end user interface. And then we have the headless architecture, where your everything is separate, and this is how your front-end code is. It's not actually tightly coupled with each other. It's open, it's easy to use, it's easy to visualize even. So let's move to Strapi. Strapi is something that the first thing that comes into your mind is like, why Strapi? What are the few things that Strapi offers? So Strapi is actually an open source headless CMS. Their main focus is how you can provide flexibility to the developers to make changes and to take control of things. It's more of developer centric rather than the whole, the being the whole user centric. It's more developer centric. You get to customize everything. Being open source, you get the freedom to actually even change the code base if you want to, and fulfill your requirements. If you don't want to go to the paid version or the features that they have developed, then you can automatically generate different APIs, RESTful APIs and GraphQL APIs. Then it is very user friendly. It's very easy for you to use, even if you are not non-tech person. So even if you belong from a marketing background, or you are just a basic content writer and you do not have more exposure to developer centric things, Strapi is really easy for you to understand and use. It's a very simple tool, and there are no complexities when it comes to handling and managing content. As I explained, the main advantage is the open source. Then there is another thing, that is self-hosted. So Strapi has multiple options. You can either host it on your servers, or you can even use their cloud hosted version if you want to quickly set things up. If you have data that is extremely critical, you don't want it to be shared among other people, you want it to be protected and stay in your system, you can always self-host a Strapi instance and put your content over there. It's extremely developer friendly. It's not that difficult to set the things up. It's really easy, and things are quite smooth when you are setting things up. It has a wide tech stack compatibility. As you are using things using APIs, you're calling or retrieving your content through APIs, you can integrate it with the popular front-end technologies, Vue, React, Angular, even Blazor. You can, being .NET developers, we sometimes want to build things in Blazor. You can even integrate it with your Blazor application. And it also supports popular databases like Postgres, MongoDB, MySQL. Then one more thing that I found very interesting and really nice is that they have a very active community. So they have Discord channels, they have Strapi community, and then if you are using the paid version, their support team is actually quite responsive. If you have any queries, you can ask them directly, or you can use those communities to ask questions, and people usually do respond. You will, if you are facing something as a developer, there would be a lot of other developers who are ready to help you out. They even fix, if you are facing a bug, a specific bug, they're even ready to fix that for you and help you out. Then they have an extensive documentation that covers almost everything. It covers from your smaller things to everything in detail, even covers their complex features as well. So this is how a request is generally, being handled. You have the content, then you have a static site generator and an application. Your content is fetched from Strapi. It's the API is responsible for doing that. Then it's served to your application, and the pages are built, and users can retrieve those content from your web pages, mobile application, whatever you are using. So content management and structuring. As I previously said, that content management systems are all about content, their management, and how easy they are to, to visualize, to see, to update. So let's just go into details of it. So it has a very user-friendly dashboard, like I explained. You don't have to be a developer to actually get a hold of things. You can be a non-tech person and actually update things on the go. Then there is role-based access for different user permissions. We will discuss this later onwards in detail. Then we have content types. Strapi offers you two options, single types and collection types. Single types are where you want to handle content for specific pages. For example, a home page. You want multiple versions of the home page maybe, and you want that content to be, a single entity. So you will use a single type. Then there are collection types. For example, I'm building a website where I have multiple articles and multiple authors, and I want to manage those. So I will use a collection type where I can give a template on, that you can add different rich text, you can add media and everything. I can give them flexibility or what they can add and cannot add, and they can create multiple entries of those articles. Then there is dynamic zones. Dynamic zones give you more flexibility over the content and specifically over the components. When I say component, what I mean is that, for example, I have an article collection type and I want to add a component in it, which has a heading, rich text, and that's a specific, like maybe it's a card, and I want to render it as a card on my front end website. So I have a component name as article card on Strapi as well. And I give the flexibility that you can add a title on it and a rich text that has the description on it. And then I can add multiple components in the dynamic zone, and the user can use their required components like some other component as well. This will, you guys will understand this better when we go into the demo mode. I will show this. So do not get confused. I'm just getting the concepts together for you guys first. So you can reuse these components to build different pages, different content. And it gives you the flexibility to change the order of your content. You can always drag and drop things and move around. Then you have a centralized media library. It's for managing all of your media content. By media content, I am talking about images, files, videos, whatever you have that can be uploaded. And it's not just restricted to, storing things in the Strapi media library. You can connect your S3 bucket with it. You have the flexibility to do that as well. There are different plugins that come up with the Strapi, Strapi admin. So you can use those and upload things on your buckets as well. Then there is versioning and drafts. When we are talking about content, one thing that does come in mind is that how we will be, handling the versioning of the content. For example, I have a page and I decide in the next release cycle that I want to update something over it. So I would really want to, have different versions of it. So Strapi does give you save drafts and publish option. You can always keep things in your draft, and when you want, you can publish them and make them go live. You can track changes. You can change even previous. You can even change previous versions that are already published, and you can always move them back. And then there is one more thing that is provided is that, you don't want any unreviewed content to actually go live. So you can even define review workflows. What a review workflow does is that you can assign different team members that they would, for example, an author and an editor. An author just dumps in the content they wanted to write. They wanted to write an article, they have everything aligned, and then they can assign it to the editor who reviews it before it goes live, and even ask for changes, so that your content is aligned and it is reviewed before it goes live. Different team members can collaborate, like this is a collaboration between an author and an editor. You can even add multiple roles, like you can have a dedicated person who is responsible for updating media, and they would have access to just updating the media over there. You can even do that. Role-based access. So when we talk about management and content management and different roles, who would be responsible for updating this portion, who would be responsible for updating that portion, who can actually change the settings, who can actually manage the permissions that are given to each other. So Strapi gives you role-based access. There are by default 3 roles: super admin, editor, and author. Super admin is who has control over everything. That is something that you would give to either your IT person or a lead person who can change the permissions, who can actually add a Reddit review flows and actually change the API permissions as well. Then there is author. Authors are responsible for managing their own content, whatever they write, whatever they have updated, they are responsible for doing that. An editor has more control. They can see existing content as well. They can see content written by other editors and by other authors. So they have more flexibility and visual, they can more visualize more things more. Then we also have granular permissions. So one thing I like about Strapi is that, the permissions are very granular. So for example, I was talking about like you can have a person dedicated to update media. You can, give them permissions to just update that media field on that a specific page. You don't want them messing around with the content, the rich text or anything else. So you can, just give them permission for that one field. So they won't be able to edit anything else on that specific page. They would be just responsible for updating the media. So then again, this thing makes your team collaboration more easier, and it just gives you the right person to who you have to ask for specific things, and who you have to contact, like if you want something to get done. It gives you more security because you don't want one person to be messing up content of the other person. So when you have granular level permissions, you can achieve more, more security in terms that you don't want any unauthorized person changing content on a published page. So this helps you in that. Then there is audit logs. You can track user actions, what they have changed, and you can even maintain accountability and monitor for any suspicious activities. So being open source means that you can customize whatever you like. So being developers who are actually working on the front end and they want specific things. For example, I want a page which should show me content from an article, but I do also want a list of other articles on the site. So what I can do is I can design an API, and uh, that gives me content from multiple sources, and then combine them and just produce one payload. So when you're working with Strapi, you do get that. So you can generate RESTful APIs, GraphQL APIs. You can customize the APIs according to your requirements. You can add and drop things when you are modifying an API. And then you can even add your custom endpoints. There are default endpoints as well. If you want to just directly access a content from a specific page, you can fetch it directly as well. But if you want it more aligned with different things, you can add custom endpoints as well. Let's just discuss a use case. For example, I have a website, and that website has a header, the header menu, and a footer menu. And then in between is my actual content. Now on Strapi, I can create a single type for one header menu, one for the footer. And then I have let's just say that we have articles in between, and I have a collection type of articles. This means that if I am going towards using the traditional calls, the actual calls that Strapi offers, it means 3 API calls. But what I can do is I can create my own custom API and integrate those 3 in one call and send it back. So whenever anything is required on my website, and I will just call that one API and get content from 3 different sources at the same time. So it gives you liberty to actually optimize your performance. You don't have to make 3 different calls. You can get things done in one single call. And when you are handling things internally, like on the Strapi end, you don't have to make API calls over there as well. You have control over the database. You can just directly fetch the content, and because you are in that ecosystem, and you can directly fetch your content and make things faster and smoother. Lifecycle hooks. Lifecycle hooks allow you to add custom logic wherever you want. Like if you want to add something, so for example, you want to add some validations. So you can add them before using the before lifecycle hook. And then there is another lifecycle hook that is known as after lifecycle hooks. Those run after a code has been executed. You can add hooks for create, update, delete, and even for find actions. Like for example, I created an entry and I want to validate something. like I have a specific field over there, author, and I want to check if that author actually exists in the list of authors. So I can even add that validation. If it does not exist, I can give an error message and ask the user to use their correct name or any other validation that is required. So it gives you the freedom to actually add your business logic over there in the code and have things streamlined. So it gives you an enhanced functionality and more control over your data processing. You can even you can log tracking changes for audit purposes as well, or send notifications. So one of the use cases where I personally use lifecycle hooks on the project that I am working on is that we have this thing, like we have a cache enabled, and we want to invalidate that cache whenever some content is updated on Strapi. So we have a hook aligned for that. So whenever a content is updated, we actually trigger our after update lifecycle hook that tells the cache server that this page is no longer valid, and invalidate that page so that a fresh entry is fetched from the content management system, and the data is always fresh and you don't see any issues. Coming towards authentication, one of the most important things when you are dealing with anything. So Strapi provides you built-in authentication and authorization. We already discussed the RBAC thing. Apart from that, it also gives you JWT token for secure authentication. You can actually make your API calls authenticated, and you have to pass a token with it so that no unauthorized user can actually access your content. So one more thing that is over there is you can actually give public access as well. You can give public permissions as well. But when you want to secure your data, you always prefer that you have an authenticated mechanism rather than public mechanism. So you can manage and create more users, and you can give them permissions. I can even give permissions on that which authenticated user can actually make this call and who cannot. Again, secure user authentication and data protection, flexible role management, and simplified integration. Or you can also integrate third-party providers when you are working on Strapi. You can integrate Google, Facebook, whatever you like. So let's move forward to setting up Strapi Cloud. So in our use case, we actually want to save time on actually managing everything on our own. So we have set things up in Strapi Cloud. But again, if your data is sensitive and you want to have your things in your own environment, you can always spin a Strapi instance on your local server. Strapi Cloud, it manages fully managed platform for deploying and hosting Strapi projects. It's responsible for the management and scalability itself. It has automated updates, backups, and maintenance. So it's easily scalable as well. They're responsible. They're handling your requests. They're actually scaling your servers if you have more load. And you don't even have to set up a database. They take care of that as well on their own. So I will just stop here before starting the demo and ask if you guys have any questions.
If anyone has any questions, they can raise their hand and we will ask them to unmute. Other than that, you can write in the chat box or the Q&A box. Someone did ask, will you give a demo? So I replied that,
Yes, I
yeah.
am going to. I am going to explain everything that we discussed in these slides in detail in the demo.
Okay, I don't think there are any questions so
Okay,
far.
let's just move forward. Let me just show up the Strapi dashboard.
I think, yeah, there are some messages that
Oh
have
yeah,
come.
sure.
So someone has asked capture support question mark. I'm unsure because it's
It does not,
incomplete. Can
it,
you?
it's not, it's, yeah, no, it's not, there is no capture support on the content itself, but you can always add that on your front end side of things if that's what you are, you don't want bots and stuff.
There's another question. Let's suppose if you are not using some cloud storage like S3 for storing media, where exactly Strapi stores that media files? In file system or database?
In the database. It actually stores in the database. It creates a separate a table for your media and, adds it over there.
Okay. Compare WordPress versus Strapi.
So WordPress is a traditional CMS. In WordPress, you get the freedom of actually styling things on the front end. But on Strapi, like on the CMS, on Strapi, you just have your content, and all of your styling, all of your look and feel goes on the front end. So this is the major difference. You cannot actually change the visualizations and feel of your content on Strapi. It's a headless CMS.
Okay. Is Strapi working with WordPress?
Is Strapi working? No, Strapi. I don't think so. Strapi is working with WordPress. They have a separate entity and everything is separate.
Okay. You talked about aggregating APIs with Strapi. That can save time, but how does that guarantee performance optimization?
You see, it is all on how you are actually creating that API. So as I talk, like on the front end, if you're calling 3 APIs as opposed to one, then obviously there would be a more of a head on the 3 APIs. And if you're calling one API, it would take less time and you can, get more results easily and quicker. Then again, there does come a question of the payload, how heavy your payload is. If you are creating if you want, for example, you have an API that is returning articles and article details as well, but you do not want more details. You just want a specific article. You can always create a custom API and, extract that from the payload, that chunk from the payload. So it will obviously reduce your payload size and improve your performance.
Okay. Thank you, Nisma. There aren't
Okay.
any more?
Okay, so if you guys can see my screen, you guys see this Strapi Cloud dashboard. I'm going to start with this dashboard because again, I am going to give an overview of the cloud version, and then I'll move things to my local machine and let you know how things are working. So this is the Strapi Cloud dashboard. I have spin a project. That is my Strapi project. I'm on a trial version over here. The good thing is that they give you a 14 days trial, sorry. And in that trial version, they give you all of their enterprise level features. You can test around, you can play with those features. And if you require those features, you can then, purchase the enterprise version. Otherwise, you can stay on the free plan. Okay, so you get to see the deploys, the number of deploys that have been done. The settings include the domains, backup variables, and everything is over here. So if I click on visit the app, it opens up an app. Oh, it's the same thing. Okay, and it asks me to log in. So I have a user created with my name. I'm going to log in. Once I am logged in, I land to this dashboard. A very easy dashboard, a very simple dashboard, does not have anything complex. It has a few things on it on the left. I will explain these one by one in detail so that you have an idea where the content is actually going, where your customizations are going, and where you are actually creating users and assigning permissions. So first is the content manager. The name indicates, what it does, content manager. It is where all of your content is being managed. You can see collection types and single types. I have used a Strapi template that is for article and blogs website, and these are by default over here. If these are single types, I am on this about single type. This is about the Strapi blog, and I see fixed things over here. These are different components, and I can even add more components. Moving towards a collection type. A collection type is that I have an entity article and I want to create multiple articles on basis on that template. When I say template, it's because you can either fix it on a specific set of components, or you can use a dynamic body with all of your components. This is called a dynamic body with all of your components, and the user can select from whatever they like. They want to add media, code, rich text, whatever they like. And then there is standard content that this is fixed for the website. You have to add this. Then you see this author. This is a relation that you can, add. You can even create relations between different collection types, different entries. And I will even let you know how that is created later onwards. This is just for you to understand how content is being managed first. Let's go back. Now, one more thing over there is that I, being a new user, I'm a new marketing user, I don't know how to create a new entry. Either I can create a new entry, but then again, someone has to tell me and explain every field to me, that what I have to add and what I want to do. Uh, but then there is another option, if I go back, is that I can clone an existing entry. I have this entry, I want to use the same entry, change the heading a little bit, the content, the media is the same, but the detail of the body is different. So I can always click on this duplicate item, and you can create a slug. It will create a slug for you, and then you see all of the content over here. Then what I can do is what's inside a black hole, a new mystery, maybe change the title of it and click on save. It will create, oh, sorry, it gave an internal server because it had a slug issue. Okay, let's just never mind. When I'm going to create a new collection type myself, I'll align that. So you can always duplicate entries as well. Then you can even configure the view of it. Configure the view means that if you want to change things up and down, you can do that. If you want to edit something and mark is as non-editable, you can do that as well. So that you can do all of this using this content manager. Then we have the content type builder. This is where developers are more interested in. Like you want to create different components for the front end, like from the front end, and you want your team to actually, content writer team, marketing team, or even developers, to use those components and create different versions of articles or different versions or different pages of the website. So you cannot actually maneuver or manipulate things over here because it's running in prod, and you would have to actually push things via code. It helps you keep a track of the components that are being made. It helps you keep a track of the changes that have been made to existing components. So it's, you can always push code through a pipeline and deploy it. So whenever I have a branch set up, whenever I push anything to this branch, Strapi Cloud will trigger an automatic deployment and things would get reflected on the go. We have media library. Media library is very simple. You can add anything over here. You can add any type of file, and you can even check if you want to, see the different, you want alphabetical order, you can sort them. You can sort them on the basis of your uploads as well, but the recent ones come first. So these are more of like, you can even create folders and, add filters over here, just create a folder, and you can manage your media in a cleaner way as well. Releases is an enterprise level feature in which you can add a release and you can actually schedule it and actually, publish entries on the basis of it. It is more of automation when you are doing a bulk release. For example, I have a new year version of my website coming up and I want everything to be done in one go. I can always, automate it. This is something when you are sure all of your content has been reviewed and is actually ready to go live, you can, use this feature. But if you're not sure and you want someone to be responsible for actually publishing pages, so you can always do it manually as well. So it does not have to be like, it's not a very mandatory feature, but it's good to have because automation is always good to have. Then we have plugins. We can add different plugins as per our requirements. These are some default plugins that are added by default on Strapi. You have a marketplace where you can explore different plugins and add them. Strapi is actually adding a lot of plugins on the go. They have a lot of support and third-party integrations as well. For example, if you want, when you are talking about websites and performance, you want your images to be optimized. You want them into be WebP format. But then again, when a person is uploading images and they don't take care of it, you can even add a responsive image plugin that actually converts all those uploaded images into WebP format by default. So you can configure that as well. If you want, for example, to play around with your content, you want to import something or export something as CSV files or, JSON files, you can do that as well. There is a plugin for doing that as well. And then there are a lot of other plugins as well that you can use according to your requirements. Then comes settings. The settings is where you don't want to give control to everyone. This is where you want either someone who has knowledge of the whole CMS system and how things are working, or someone who is more, responsible, or you can, who can take ownership of things. For example, you can give the rights to a like the super admin rights to a tech lead maybe, or someone from the development team as per your requirements and your structure of your company. This is an overview. This gives you just the Strapi version. I'm currently using 4.21.1, and it is showing enterprise edition because I'm on the free plan and I have access to all the enterprise features right now. I can even customize the logo, this menu logo. This logo is changed if I change it, and then you can update this logo as well. If you want to, have your company's logo over here as well, you can do that as well. Then comes API tokens. You can create an API token on the go. I would say, let's just name it as a dev token. I am going to, this is a test token, and I can, select the duration of this token if I want that it expires after 7 days. And after every 7 days, we update the token. I can click on 7 days. If my content isn't that critical and I do not want more pushes to my front end code and I don't want to actually update the token very frequently, I can either keep it to 90 days or even as unlimited. I'm going to keep it as 7 days. You have 3 types. You can give it read-only access. You can give full access. Full access is that you can actually push things to Strapi via your APIs as well. You can actually update things as well. Or you can give custom access. Custom access is where you want, these are all collection types and single types. Custom, if I click on custom, I can actually change the settings for each one of these. So for example, I have this one API token that is given to a set of people and is being utilized on a set of pages. I want just them to be able to retrieve data and not update or delete anything via an API. I can give them access to this token. But if I have more centered, pages or more centered people who actually can maneuver more content, I can give them full access. And if I have more like everything would be updated via your admin panel, and I don't want anything to be updated by APIs. I don't want any developer messing around with my content. I don't want them to have access over that. And I just want my team of content managers to actually update and, delete something over there. So I can actually give them read-only access. When I give read-only access, it will just click this find one, and you can only read the content and you cannot update it. Moving forward to internationalization. Internationalization is where you want to give multiple language support to your content. You can create multiple entries. For example, I have a page that is written in English, and I want a version of the same page to be there in Spanish as well. So I can always add different languages. I can add new locales, and locales have a drop down of all the languages that I want and I want to use. So you can always select and add these from here as well. So let's just add one language. Let's just do it on the local machine because you guys can see more control over it and you can actually see the content over here. Why I'm not adding it over here is because I have to enable it from the content type builder for that specific collection or single type. And currently, when you are working on the cloud version, it's a prod level, you cannot do those changes. So you would have to have a fresh deployment. So I am going to avoid that, and I'm going to show you the things on my local machine so that it takes less time and you can visualize things on the go. Then again, it's media library. You can actually, responsive friendly upload. You can change orientation, the size optimization. By default, Strapi already optimizes the size of images, but you can even add more plugins to it. Then you have the review workflows. This was something that I was explaining previously as well. Review workflows is that I want my content to be reviewed by someone. This is a default workflow that has been created, and I can associate it with different collection types. I just associated it with article because I want my articles to be reviewed. I don't want authors and categories to be reviewed. I want articles in specific to be reviewed before they go live. So you have a to-do state. To-do state is can be updated by an author and an editor. It is when you are actually creating content. Then there is ready to review. Let me just go through these and I will visualize, let you guys see this in actually working on the collection type as well. Ready to review, then there's in progress and reviewed. Once reviewed, you can always publish it up. Let's just go back to the articles and click on one article. So see, this is the review stage. It is currently in to do. I go through my content. I think I see that everything is aligned. Okay, it's ready to review. I will change this date and I will assign someone over here as well. So now what happens is once this is reviewed, and let's just say that this Sarah Baker did this and I am the reviewer and I have to update as well and I have to, change, review the content. I see this as ready for review and it's assigned to me. I open it up. I'm not seeing any other assignee is because I am the only user currently on this whole platform. If I have multiple users, they appear as drop-down users as well. So once I am reviewing it, I will change it into in progress. Once done, it would be changed to reviewed and then I can publish it. It's already published. Like if it's in a draft state, I can publish it and it can go live. Okay, moving back towards the settings. I'm going in detail of all of these settings because these are very critical because these are responsible for giving you control over your content. So then we have transfer token. This is for data sharing. I have, this is all hosted in cloud and I want to actually fetch that data and duplicate it on my local machine. I can use transfer token to pull the data from Strapi cloud onto my local machine as, as a replica, or I can even push content from my local machine to Strapi cloud. But the schemas is that all the, the components and everything has to be the same. Webhooks is similar to lifecycle hooks, but those are triggered on update and delete and creation. Now you can also create webhooks that are different from those, like you want to maybe invalidate something or do something and create a generic webhook you can create from here. Audit logs is pretty much straightforward. It gives you, like I just published an entry. It gave me that I have published an entry article. If I want to view it, it will give me details of it as well. It's not very user friendly, I would say. It's because it dumps everything over here in this format and it's sometimes difficult to visualize, but you can always add your own logging mechanisms as well. But this is something that is there to track, like if someone deleted something, it would just come over here, deleted an entry. So it's more for that you can, see what is deleted or updated, but it's not a very user friendly. Then comes the roles. 3 roles: author, editor, and super admin. And you can always create a new role. Let's just go and play around with the author default role. Authors can manage the content that they have created. For example, I have an author A and author B. Author A won't be able to see the content that author B has created. So this will give you the freedom that author B cannot, can never update the content of author A and vice versa. An editor you can give permissions to an editor and they can actually change things. So what I was talking about, like, for example, you have a media person and you want them to, be able to update the media. For example, this cover is actually the media that is over there. I can disable all of the rest of these things that they cannot change anything and they can just update this media. So these are granular level permissions that you get. So you can always change these permissions according to your requirements, and you can change these for collection types, single types, and even for plugins. If you don't want some of your you don't want your authors to be actually handling or messing up with the releases, don't give them permissions. If you have someone in a leadership role and they are maybe the lead content writer or something, you can give them permissions for these things. So this is pretty much simple, easy, and being able to actually set these permissions gives you a flexibility that your content is not going to get corrupted. So someone won't change things up, someone won't be able to mess things up for you. Then there are users. As I said, I'm the only user, but you can always invite a new user. For example, I'm just going to add test and then Let me just add it as a last name user, and then I add an email. Let me just add my personal email over here, and I give them editor rights. So if I invite the user, I'll get a link. I have to share this link, and I can use this link to create a new user. If I just go over here and paste it, it would give me to this screen. I can add this. I can configure the password. I'm going to use the same password. Just and it will create a new user for me. Now, you see, I'm added, I have logged in as an editor. I don't see things as, the plugins and the marketplace over here because I do not have permissions over there. When I go to the content, I can see different content because I do have permissions, but I cannot actually play around with the plugins or anything. And I cannot even change anything in the settings because now I'm logged in as an editor and not as a super admin. So you can change these permissions. This is the major advantage you have when you are actually using role-based access. People cannot mess things up. I can still go through the media library. I can still update things over here as well. So it's pretty much straightforward. It gives me, full flexibility. Any questions till now? Or I can move, then I will move towards the coding things. Fatma, do we have any questions in the chat?
Not yet, but let's give it a
Yeah, let's
minute
just
if anyone's typing. Yeah.
till you are writing your questions, I will change the view
Mhm.
and actually share something else over here as well.
I think we can start.
Okay. Just a minute. Let me just show the project. It moves the project structure screen to yes. Okay, so this is the project structure of when I have my code on my local machine. So I see different things over here, the build, the config data, databases, node modules, public source types. So if I open up source, I see the admin API components, extensions, whatever that has to be, added or removed or updated according to the requirements. Maybe the structuring of the content, everything goes over here. APIs are basically your collection types are single types are also considered as APIs, and they are added over here. If you open one API, you see content type, controller routes, and services. You can change these as well. If I open content types, I will see a schema file. This is basically how the template would be. Okay, let's just move forward. I have Strapi running. Let me just stop it and run it again. I will just use npm run develop after installing Strapi. If you want to install Strapi, it's pretty straightforward. You just have to see the Strapi getting started guide. They have mentioned all of the steps over there. I won't be going through those because it's pretty straightforward and you can spin an instance with an existing template in just a few seconds. It just takes, the building time and everything. So yeah, it's going to take a while because it's creating the admin panel. Just a minute. So I want to keep this when I'm working on the content. If you guys have any questions, you can drop them in the chat and I will try to answer them as I am working. Fatbek, you would have to assist me in that, okay? So that if you don't
Yeah, sure.
understand if I am creating a component, how I'm doing it, if you want me to repeat it, I can on the go.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
It's almost done. Yeah, it's almost done. It's just going to take a little while. Oh yeah, it's almost done. It will just go live. So I'm using a template, so it's taking a little more time. It does not
Mm-hmm.
take this time when you are actually, using a project that you have actually made. Okay, so it's live. And I think we have a question as well. Yeah, so
Um,
How
Yeah,
can
that
Strapi be
makes.
integrated in the web app so that I will answer this question at the end.
Wait, where are you reading the question?
Question and answer.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
because
okay,
I will discuss this in detail in the end so that you have a
okay, okay.
better idea.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
great.
Okay, let's just move forward. Now, if I click on content type builder, I am going to skip the tour. I can actually see things. I can add another field to it. When I was here, I could not. There was like it's running in broad mode. You cannot edit anything. But when I am running it on my local machine as a developer, I can actually see things. So I can edit an existing collection type, or I can change things up. Let's start by creating a new component. I click on create a new component and I want it to be, uh, maybe I'm going to create an article card, which will actually be a shared component, and I'm going to assign it an icon. Icon can be anything you want. Okay, so now I have a simple text field. I add it as a title. I wanted the title to be just a short text. And then I don't want anything else. I want a rich text block. It's up to you if you want to use this rich text block or the markdown one. I'm going to use the markdown. I'm going to write it as details, or even better, text on card. This is, you have to visualize it because I won't be showing you how I'm going to style this component on the front end, but you can visualize it as that there is a card with a title and a little description written on the card and a small image icon on the side. And then I want an image, a media file, and I get it as I'll just leave it thumbnail, and I want a single file. Then I can even, change this, like, because I do not want any audio files or images or videos, I can just, select images from here. Like this thumbnail can only be images. And I want an image to always be present. So I have marked as that required. I will click on save. This will restart my server. So whenever you are making changes and saving changes on the go, the thing is that the server restarts to actually reflect those changes. Meanwhile, since this is restarting, we go back to our code base and we go and see in source, in components, I click on shared, and then there is article card over here. So whatever I have added on my dashboard and used it, a JSON file is created automatically for it. So it has all the attributes, it has all the fields that I have added over here. It has the name and the display icon. It has options if I have added any other options on it. And it has a collection name as well. It's a component and where it is. So everything is, handled by default. You don't have to actually go and write JSON files or configure components. You just use the dashboard to create, and it would automatically generate JSON files for you. Why these JSON files, looking at these JSON files, can be useful for you, or you can use these, is when you are actually maneuvering content in a way that you have a lot of nested components. So Strapi does not allow you more nesting of components. For example, I have a card and there is another card in it, and then there is another list of cards. So it would be deeply nested. If I want to add a deeply nested component, I want to create a deeply nested component just in, there is a use case for it, because deeply nested components are never recommended. You will always structure data in a way that it's not deeply nested, because deeply nested components can cause issues when you're managing the content. But what if you have a situation like that? So you can update it directly from these files. That won't be allowable on the dashboard because Strapi has a default limit of depth for like, I guess, for till 5. You cannot exceed. If you want to exceed that, you would have to manually update the code. Okay, let's see if our system is live. Yes, it is. Okay, so now my system is live again. I have an article card, and I want this article card to go in my existing article blocks. I have this dynamic body blocks. It's a dynamic zone. I can see all of these components, and I want that article card to be added over here as well. I can create a component directly from here as well, or I can create all the components on one go and add them uh, together, like the article card. And SEO is not over here. SEO is added over up already. Yeah, so okay. So I have added the article card over here. I will click on save. Then again, this will again trigger a deployment. This will again make the system to restart. But once I add it over here, it could be automatically added in the source as well. This would be reflected in the API actually. I'm going to, sorry, I added it in the articles. So the content type, article, the schema, it would update the schema and give me, it would, this is the dynamic zone. The dynamic zone has article card added to it as well. Okay, pretty much it. Yes, it's live again now. When I go to content manager and click on article and maybe create a new article, I want the name as this is a test article. And I add the description. We are testing Strapi. And then I create a slug. I just automatically generated it. I want to add a cover. I am going to use an existing one. And I do not have myself added as an author, so I will add. And this is news. I'm done. And then I will open up the blocks. Now I want the first thing to be over there is the title text, sorry, text, and then I add dummy content is being added. Now I want to add a line that has to be bold. I'll click on bold and add that. This is bold text. I can play around in with whatever I want. I can change this as a link. I can add a link over here. I can insert media over here as well. I can do whatever you want to do with a rich text. So it is the standard rich text formatter. You can even say the preview markdown mode. See, this is bold, this is dummy. And then if I go back, I say I want to add a heading maybe. H1 heading, and when I see preview, see, it's reflected as a heading. This is reflected as a link, so you can do that as well. I want to add a thumbnail image. I add this small image as a thumbnail image. It's up to me. And then I want to add maybe a rich text section that has the body. This is a test article with, sorry, with dummy content, maybe something like this, and I save it. You won't be doing it over here, but I'm showing you things over here because I would have to trigger a deployment to cloud if I push my changes, and that would take some time. So, okay. You can see that I do not have review workflows over here. I cannot change and get this content reviewed. The thing is that because review workflows is a paid feature and it's not available for free versions or when you are hosting things on your local machines. So this is how easily you can actually create content and publish it without reviewing. And then this is done. Now let's move back to content type builder. I want to create a new collection type. It's simple, easy as that. I click on creation and I want to create a collection type for blog. And then it gives you the API ID. It's singular and the plural one. If I go into advanced settings, it has draft and publish, and I am going to enable internationalization over it. Okay, so I have a text field. I will say it has a title. And then I'm not going to add any dynamic zone. I just want people to just add a title and the description of a blog, and then maybe add an image or whatever they like. I'm going to add it as media and single media over here. And I save it. It's going to be reflected over here. We were previously looking at articles, and when we go add API, we can see we have a blog API configured. Okay, let's move back. It's just taking a little more time. Yeah, it's loading. So this is why they don't let you actually change things up in the prod mode, because when you are messing things up, it goes down. You're changing things up. Okay, so now I have blog over here. I will go into settings, internationalization, and add a locale. Let's just add Arabic maybe. Okay, let's see. And it's save it. Now this is added. Now I go back. I go to my blog. I am going to create a new entry. You see this globe over here? This value is unique for the selected locale. This has to be unique. So I say English article version. I can change this as well. I will show it how it can be changed. Test. And then I'm not adding media over here, and then I save it. So once I have saved it, this option is appearing over here that has locales. If I go to this drop down, I have Arabic over here. I'm going to click on Arabic. It gives me an entry that is, actually blank, but I can fill in from another locale. I can fill it directly and I can change the Arabic. I can actually add Arabic content over here and change things. And that's up to you. If you want to create, whatever language you want to, you can add that content over here. There is no restriction of actually, adding Arabic text over here, but then again, it's up to you how you want your content to be. You can create different language versions of your content. They don't have any limitations. It's because sometimes you are writing an Arabic description and you want to use an English keyword or a keyword from another language, you can do that. There is no limitation. Okay, so this is done. Then I go back to blogs. I see just the English version. So, and if I click on this and change language, it will give me the Arabic version. Can always change settings and, configure the view of it, how I want things to be, how I want, what I want to view and things. These are more granular details that you can actually, if you have hands-on experience of it, you can change it according to your requirements. I won't go into the details of those because they might confuse you. Okay, so this is done. Now we go back to our code, and then we say that when I am updating something on blog, I want maybe just a notification that blog has been updated, or maybe log it somewhere. So what I would do is I want to create a life cycle hook. For creating life cycle hooks, you go over here, blog. There is a specific, syntax for it. You go over here, you click on blog, and then you create a new file with the name lifecycle hook. Strapi has, I guess, changed it a little bit as well, but this lifecycle hook is life cycles, and it has to be a JS file. You just create a JS file. Okay, so this has been created. Now, this is actually an empty file that I have just created to add a lifecycle hook. You can use the documentation to add things up. I will just copy paste a few things. Just a minute. I do not require exos. I just want to show errors. I'll paste in this. And then you have the module exports. Just a minute. And I add this as well. Then I close the braces for it. Okay, now this is a syntax and I can add my lifecycle hooks here. Okay, so let's create a lifecycle hook for after create. Like if I want to create something and I want it to be reflected. So I will simply create it like I want it to be async. It's up to you if you want to keep it async or not. After create, I want an event over here. It's up to you again. If you want to log things up, you can. If you don't want anything, you can change this as well. I won't be doing anything over here. What I will do is simple console.log. It's up to you if you want to add something more, you want to add more details to it. You want to add maybe that if you create an entry for blog, you want to an entry automatically created in the articles as well. You can even automate it to that level. But let's just keep it very simple. I have just added it over here. When I save it, it actually rebuilds the whole thing up. Okay, there's no change. Let's just test it out, or if we have to. So we have this, we created entry. Oh, sorry, we have added it to add a title, testing life cycle. Not adding anything over here. I'm just going to save it. It created an entry. If I go back, see, it's logged over here. Entry has been updated. It should be created, but never mind. So this is how you can use lifecycle hooks. It's very easy to create, but you can use them to add automation. For example, a use case is that you are managing your URLs from your Strapi admin panel as well. All the web URLs on your website are managed on Strapi because you want to publish and unpublish a URL from Strapi. And if a URL is unpublished on Strapi, you don't want it to be on the live website. So what you can do is that whenever you create a page, for example, it's just an article page, but it would have a URL for it. You can create an entry automatically in the other collection type, the URL collection type. You can do that. You can automate things. You can even check for like I previously said that I want to maybe add an author. Maybe there is an author over there, but they don't exist. And I have mentioned him somewhere. I can even add that validation over here. I can call cache and validation mechanisms. And you can even fetch content from other collection types and show them over here, or even log them. You can add details, whatever you like. So you get the flexibility to customize it as you want. Let's just quickly go through one more thing, that is how you can create an API using Strapi. I'm going to pause it over here just a minute. So Strapi gives you this command, npx strapi generate. If you just enter this up, it will automatically give you an option. It should in a while. It would give you an option to create your API. You can do that. Oh yeah. So I have the option to create an API, a controller, a content type. You can do this through your command line as well. I'm going to create an API. I'm going to name this API as simple as content, just content API. And I'm going to create, it's not for a plugin. So is this API for a plugin? No, it's not. And then an API is created by default. Now, when I go back to this code and APIs, you can see that the content API is created over here. Controller routes and services have been defined for them. If I open controller, you can see, let me just bring it to this screen. You can see there is dummy content added over here as well. And you can actually add more content. You can add details. You can add your logic. If you want to, for example, I have this logic written for multiple data, fetching data from different collection types. I can integrate it over here as well. You can add Strapi database queries over here. You can add Axios calls over here. It's up to you how you want to model and manipulate your content using this API. It's up to you. You have the whole freedom to maneuver with the data, the payload, and create it as per your requirements. So that's it. Do you guys want me to go in details of it? Because I don't want to. I want to show you how the content is actually showing when I'm calling it. Right.
We have some Q&A. We have some questions in the Q&A section if you want to take that.
Okay, just one more thing, and then I will actually take those
sure.
questions. Yeah, because I want to answer as many questions as I can. Okay, so I can, just get this content as from here, just a minute, and you can actually use this content directly as well. You can call this API. There is a format for doing that, and you can see whenever you fetch your content, it's a JSON content, you can utilize that content on your website. I am going to go to the questions now. Okay, we have those, Fatma, those questions are in the Q&A session, right?
Yes, there are two. So one you said you'll address, and then there is another one as
Yeah.
well.
So the first I will address the one I said I'll address later. So it's like I have a web app being developed remotely by two front-end and back-end developers. Web app is deployed over a VPS so the developers can collaborate. How can Strapi be integrated in the web app so that I can add help content on the front end? Please give the exact steps. So you want to actually add Fatma, can we unmute this person so that I can actually understand it a little more? Because there are things I want to ask.
Yeah, so it's Nismah Saleem. Let me just find her
Yeah,
and then
sure.
unmute her. Let me see. Is Samira on the call? Um,
Even if she's not, let me
yeah,
just
yeah,
answer.
she is.
Yeah, okay.
She is. Samira, I've asked you to unmute if you're fine with that. Otherwise, yeah, so she's unmuted.
He's fine.
Yeah.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Samira, can you explain a little more? Because from this, I understand that you want to add help content for the
Like
developers.
help. You have a help button in most apps that
Yeah.
explains how to do something to the user. That kind of a thing.
Yes, sure. So if you want to add, like you want to add content that you do not want if you are someone who is updating that content and you do not want to update the whole website when for, updating that specific content, you can actually create a single type on Strapi and utilize that. So whenever that help button would be pressed, you can make an API call and fetch that content from Strapi, and it would be
Exactly.
shown in your help box. You can do that. You can set up Strapi separately on a server, and you can expose that API, specific API, like I did over here as well.
Like,
You can expose that.
my question. My
Sorry?
question, sorry, well, my question was that the project is being developed currently, right? Over
Yes.
a VPN. So on that same machine, I can integrate
Yes, you
Strapi as
can.
well.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
You
so
can either
that was
update.
my
You
question.
can do that over there, and you can access it remotely as well because once it's hosted, you can access
Yeah,
it anywhere. So
yes,
yeah,
and
you do get
that's
that
the
flexibility.
free version.
It's the Strapi version.
Yes.
You can use whatever you like. I would recommend you go for the version v4.2 4.2 to 4.4. That's the latest version. It's more stable. 21 onwards, everything is streamlined and stable. Version 4 was really stable. Strapi has released version 5, but it's in beta version, so don't go for that because they're testing a lot of things over there. Version 4 is more stable. So whatever suits your requirements. And if you are, using something and you use the latest version, it's more convenient because there is a chance of lesser bugs. Does that answer your
Okay, thank
question?
you very much. It does, it does.
Welcome.
Thank you.
No problems. We have another question that is, can you differentiate headless CMS and a normal CMS with examples? Is headless CMS concept same as a headless browser like we can do in Phantom.js or Google Puppeteer? I haven't used Phantom.js or Google Puppeteer, but I will explain the difference between a headless CMS and a normal CMS briefly. It's when you don't want your architecture to be very coupled. You want your presentation and your content to be on different layers. You use a headless CMS. Traditional CMS are tightly coupled. You can style your content on the CMS like WordPress. You can actually change the look and feel of your website from WordPress, but in headless CMS, you cannot do that. It gives developers more freedom, more control over things. The use case of it can be like, for example, I have a website where all the content is being managed by non-tech people. They are either content writers or marketing people, and they don't have a very good know-how of how look and feel should be, and they are not designers actually, and you do not want your design of your website to be affected by anything that they have updated. You want the look and feel to stay intact at all times. So you can use a headless CMS. They would have access over the whole content, but you have control over how it is being shown on the front end. So that's where you use headless CMS. Okay. Any other question that we have? Do we have anything in the chat?
I don't think we have.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I don't think we have any more questions, but we
Okay.
can give it a minute. Give
Yeah,
it a
sure,
minute.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I'm okay with that. If you guys have anything you want to ask, you can ask. Feel free to
Um,
ask anything you like.
yeah, and thank you, Nismah. This was a very good and informative session. I've also added a survey link in the chat where people can give their feedback, which we would really like and would be grateful for. Also, the recording of the session will be uploaded. I guess someone has asked in the Q&A section.
Yeah, so headless CMS, we can say a CMS with API and admin only. Yes, you can say that. And then, okay, then we have something in the chat. Okay, yes, okay. My pleasure that you actually like this session. Also, people who actually want to use Strapi, I'm going to summarize it in a few words, is that if you are looking for more control of your content, you don't want, if you're a developer and you don't, your project requires things that, the content would be updated by non-tech people, then you can use Strapi. It's easier to use. The open source version gives you a lot of freedom. There are paid versions, paid things over there, but the open source, if you are a smaller, working on a smaller project, the open source version works fine as well. So if you are more of, inclined towards an enterprise level, I would definitely recommend you go for, a paid version, because it gives you more features. Yes, it's feature rich then. But then overall, it's like, it's easy to use. It gives you more freedom. Being a developer, you have more control. Okay.
Any more questions?
I don't see any questions though.
We can give
Can
another.
you show
Okay.
me how we get the front-end data in Android, or do we have to call the APIs to fetch first the front end and then the data? So if you have an Android app, you can directly call the API. You can do that for apps as well. You can directly call the Strapi API. You don't have to actually create a front end and then call it. You can directly call the Strapi API, so that those are created. If you want to see it, let me just go to this project. Let me give you, it's just a get call. Just a minute, it's over. Yes, here. Authenticated. I see this up. If I click on find, it gives you a get API. You can, just use this. You have this basic base URL, and then add the API, this format, and you can fetch the content. If you want to see, I can do that as well. Wait. I would have to, yeah, wait. Let's just duplicate. I have given it 5. This is authenticated. Let me just give it a public role. Let me just, yeah, its article has public access. I'm going to just paste it over here. It's for article. Because it's a collection type, I would have to use this articles. And oh, sorry, just, yeah. I am going to inspect so that you guys can see a better view of it. Let's just reload. See, this is how the response is. If you want to fetch a
Yes.
specific article, you can do that. You can specify the ID, or write even a custom API to fetch things on the basis of title.
Nisma, are
You
you
can do that.
sharing your screen?
Oh,
Because I
sorry, it's
cannot.
not. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I'm extremely sorry. I just stopped sharing. Ah, so this, you can see my screen now, right?
Yes, now we can.
So you can, this is the syntax of calling. You add the API and the collection type name, and then you just click on it and access it. This gives you a list of all the articles that have been published. If you want to fetch on the basis of a title or something more specific, you can create a custom API for that. But this is how it is. You can even, if you want to fetch one article, you can do it on the basis of ID as well. It's up to you how you want to fetch data. You don't have to connect a front-end app. You can just directly use the Strapi API. You can even authenticate it, add a token over it and make it more secure. I hope that answers your question. Okay, great. This is how the data is when you fetch the data. JSON format. Anything else, guys?
We'll give it another minute.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, in case someone's typing.
Yeah.
But thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for joining us. This was, I think, our 12th learning series session. And we host these bi-monthly, so we will be seeing you in 2 months for our next session as well, hopefully. So yeah, I think we can wrap it up because I don't see any more
Yeah, I don't see any either.
questions. Yeah. So thank you everyone, and thank you, Nismah.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye.